everyone, it's Brandon. So I'm not going to mince words about this whole coronavirus situation we're dealing with at the moment across the world. It sucks. And I know it's turned everything on its head on multiple aspects of, just regular life. And I know a lot of my musician friends and just musicians in general, at least all of us have at least lost a show as a result of this. Whether it be your state closing things down entirely or just various ordinances going out, just shutting down bars, restaurants, and so on. And with all of us really not knowing what the future holds at the moment, with regards to how soon we'll all be playing shows again, we do have all the fun things that we can look back on and all the amazing times, whatever they may be. And I wanted to take this video today and just recall 5 show stories of mine that just things that either in the lead up, during, or after a show, just in their own way, they were just kind of interesting, funny, or just weird things just happened. And I just wanted to bring those moments back today because these are things I've posted about previously, but the stories are too good not to share in full, and so that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm only going to go with 5 shows that I've done in the past, just kind of try to keep this video as short as possible. Maybe I'll bring this back for another video or two. We'll see about that, but we'll get right into it. Okay, to start off, April 2nd, 2019. This was when I played with the band Stolen Signal, in which we opened for the Vancouver-based rock band, the Veer Union, as they were going on a tour around the United States in early 2019. So this show came into be when I was contacted by the band just 2 weeks before the show was going to happen at the Roxy in downtown Denver. And, this was my first go-around with, we got to get things going quick, fast, and good. So that was the ante was already high. And so in getting ready to learn the set list, which at that moment was 10 songs, we didn't end up doing all 10 songs, but it was, we had to get them ready in some capacity. I got everything learned within 3 days, and by day 3 we were already practicing together. And so going into that was kind of, my first realization of mine that, there's always a ceiling to break in terms of your own musical abilities. And I thought I had everything figured out of what I could do just as a musician in general. And, 3 days to get ready for a show in 2 weeks, and I had everything ready to go really quick. And so all this prep work was a big realization for me as a musician that, there's still plenty, and I still accept this to this day, there are still plenty of boundaries I could push with myself, with what I could do, and, work to get ready and just continue to play and learn harder material. And so it was a big thing for me, and I was really proud of that. And it ended up paying off big time because the show was absolutely awesome. We played really well. I was really happy that I hardly, if at all, messed anything up. And I remember at one point our singer, specifically called me out and said, "Hey, bassist here, he had 2 weeks to get this all ready to go. And so he's killing it tonight." So, we're glad to have him. And I ended up hearing that from 2 people in particular right after that show, where right after we finished, we had piled out our gear out back so we could, load it and then get back in and enjoy the rest of the show. One of the security guards from the Roxy came up to me and he said, "Were you the bassist in that band Stolen Signal that just played?" And I said, "Yeah, that was me." And he said, "When I heard your singer say, bassist here had 2 weeks to get this ready, I was like, I gotta hear this." So, and he said, I kept my ear on it, and you were killing it, dude. So that was awesome moment number 1 from that. And then second, was another person who came up to me, and she had told me, "So you had 2 weeks to get this ready?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, when I heard that, I was like, "Ooh, this might be interesting." And then she said, "When you started playing it, I realized, yeah, he knows what he's doing." So that was awesome. And then, later with the show with the Veer Union headlining that, they were fun to watch, and I've covered them previously. That was another video I did just recently. So, that was kind of a milestone moment, this show, for me. And it was something I certainly will not forget for many years to come. So the second show I have here, This was on January 12th of 2019, so just coming into the new year. Это концерт был моей русского рок-группой Yanshiva, and we were playing at a bowling alley, I think it was called Chippers Lanes, up in Fort Collins, Colorado. This was actually the first time I ever played a show outside of Denver, so, you know, I mostly do things in Denver. So this was the first one I did out of town, and this show was interesting because not that anything leading up to it was bad. We all got up there just fine. It was a nice drive up to Fort Collins. Of course, got my Panda Express before the show, but the actual stage, this was the interesting piece. The actual stage for this venue, it was actually overlaid on some of the bowling alleys that were at the bowling alley, and so, you know, it was just some of the lanes were closed off. The stage was there, and we just got up there and played, and it was really nice because it was a big gathering of the Russian community between Fort Collins and Metro Denver, and it was a really nice experience to have, you know, for a first out-of-town show, playing on top of bowling lanes for our community. And with this show, you know, again, just this stage over these bowling lanes, and the community making long drives as their own just to come, you know, hang out and enjoy, and you know, pig out on some of the grub the venue had. That was a really good experience, and I'm really thankful that we ended up getting to do that, and I hope there's more opportunities in the future that we get to do something like that with that particular group. So the third show I had in mind for this video when just getting this ready was on November 1st of 2019, and this was my first wedding gig that I ever did. It was, well, really kind of a, you know, reception. The wedding was earlier in the day. It still counts. First wedding gig, this was with the Denver-based cover band So What Brothers. I've had multiple shows with them in the past. This show was actually interesting in that the venue was the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. It was kind of an area to the west side of the museum, and they had everything else closed off, which I was bummed about because I wanted to see if at any point if I could like take my bass around and take pictures in the exhibits, but no, we couldn't have that fun, unfortunately. But the show itself was really fun. That was kind of my first experience with that kind of sort of wedding sort of vibe with doing a show, and it was fun. The crowd was great, you know, the people were great to talk to, but it is not what happened at the show that made this interesting. It is what happened the morning of. So the morning of the show started out great, where I had gotten my nice black dress clothes on. I got my gear loaded up in my car, no problem. Started off to go to work and, you know, get through the day and go to the show later in the evening at the museum. And then I got rear-ended on my way to work. Yeah, that was scary. So what happened was, I was getting ready to get on an interstate that I regularly take to go to work, and I was just, you know, I had stopped. I was getting ready to just merge on, and because it was a bit of a grind that day, and then I got smacked in the back of my car. Which it was a pretty hard smack, and so I was like, whoa, what just happened? So I, you know, scoot off to the side, pull off to where, you know, we're not going to interrupt the rest of traffic behind us, and the person who smacked me pulled off as well. Thankfully, I did not hit anyone in front of me, so that was nice at least. And we all got pulled off, and there was a third car that also pulled off, but sped right around and jetted right away back onto the interstate. And so what had happened was the third car in this chain of, you know, rear ends that happened smacked the car that was behind me, who in turn smacked me, and then sped off. So the poor woman that was behind me that, you know, ended up bumping into me was hit and ran, and that had in turn caused the momentum caused by that caused her to hit me. But again, thankfully with this, no one was hurt, and the damage that was done was on at least the woman who stuck around, who was just trying to get her son to school that day. And my car, it was, you know, minimal at best. Thankfully, despite the, you know, quite the hard smack I did take, my car had virtually minuscule damage on it. It was, you know, I was really thankful, because it could have been a lot worse, because she was just trying to get her early high school age son to school. That was quite a eventful morning, but again, the rest of the show later on that night was great. Again, great crowd, great couple that hosted. Shitty morning, ended great. So the fourth show that I have on here, this is actually the one that's happened most recently. This was on the January 4th of 2020, and what this was when I played a Living Colour tribute show. Living Colour, of course, being the band most known for the song Cult of Personality, which, yep, I did a previous video on that as well. And these were just a couple of things that with this show that almost, one, derailed it, and two, almost made it so I didn't have all the tools I needed to play this show and play the material of Living Colour. And so the first thing that had happened with this that almost had us maybe pull out of the show, thankfully, of course, we didn't do that because I ended up posting about it, was our singer had come down with a very nasty respiratory infection, and he was elsewhere in the country at the moment. And so, we were stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it was, what do you do in that moment? But thankfully, the venue, which was Cheers, if you've ever been to Cheers, shout out to Cheers. They put on a bunch of great shows. Hopefully we're getting back there soon. They had put us in touch with a musician here in town named Dave Stremmel. He does regular work as a singer in a Foreigner tribute here in town, as well as a Van Halen/Sammy Hagar tribute. We got in touch with Dave, and Dave just had one practice with us as a full band to really, have things kind of ready and, really try to commit things to memory as much as he could. But nonetheless, Dave, thank you so much for, coming in and saving the day for us there, because Dave came in and killed it. He did really well on vocals, and, we were thankful that he was able to come in and do that for us and was, willing to come in to do that. So again, Dave Stremmel, thank you so much for, being there in that dire moment, to, keep the show going, because the show must go on. And so the second piece of this, though not as serious as potentially having to cancel a show because one of your members got sick, was earlier in the week, I had gotten my hands on this Digitech whammy pedal. I know this is the one that, is more used for guitar. I know they make a bass one, but I got this one. And, you can still get some crazy fun sounds out of this on bass. I had gotten this the week of the show, and I had started getting ready and playing with it, practicing with it, because there's some pretty interesting Living Colour stuff that uses whammy. And everything was going good until the day of the show, where the power supply for this whammy, and this is a 4th gen whammy, which until the 5th generation of whammies, as I found out later, do not run on 9-volt power. These require their own unique power supply, these 4th gen ones and prior. My power supply for this went dead the day of the show. And this led to me having just calling music stores, posting in Denver music Facebook groups that I belong to, saying, hey, does anyone have, in a pinch here, a power supply that's going to work for a whammy 4th gen? Lo and behold, someone messaged me saying, you got $20, come meet me at this address, and we'll fire it up, test if it's going to work, see if it's not your pedal, and it's yours. So I got $20, and I went and got Panda Express, of course, and I drove out to this guy's address. So meeting strangers on the internet, always fun. But no, this guy was awesome. We plugged in the power supply, plugged in the whammy. It lit up. Everything all the lights were working. He ran me through some speakers so I could test if my bass would work for it. And sure enough, it did. And that was great. I gave him the 20 right then and there. Got the power supply, and so I got things going. Drove up to the show, and from there on, it was great. Yeah, that was a fun one. Despite things going wrong on multiple fronts, we still carried on in the end and had a great show. The show was also interesting in the fact that we were also paired with a Amanda V's Material Girl, which is the Madonna tribute here in Denver, which they were awesome. That was a fun tribute to watch, and so if you ever have the chance to check them out live when all this Corona business passes, go check them out because they are awesome. And so the 5th and final show that I have here to share, this is throwing it way back, well, just 2 years, but still. This was my first ever show that I played kind of outside of a school setting. So my first quote unquote band show. This was on June 6th of 2018. So leading up to the show, I was already putting in plenty of practice and, drilling just things constantly. Did save me in the end because I did want to make this a good first show that I was ever doing in this kind of, rock band or, just band setting in general. But 2 weeks before, there was a significant life event where my sister Tara was graduating from her for her college. For what it's worth, my sister went to college at a satellite campus of New York University, which was in Shanghai, China. And so we flew out 14 hours across the world to, of course, spend a week with her to celebrate, go to her ceremony, and then, of course, just kind of sightsee and look at things around the city. But the following week, so now a week out from the show, I went to the Philippines. We were in a city called Bacolod. Again, more sightseeing, kind of different travel experience, but I'm still thankful I had that experience nonetheless. But then we flew back, and I arrived back in the United States just 4 days prior to the show. I gave myself a day to kind of catch up, but thankfully I timed my sleeping on the plane right to where when we got back, I was back, really well adjusted to, Denver time. And we practiced a couple days before, got to the show, and that was that. In the actual show itself, it was pretty solid. It was kind of a mishmash of bands and styles. We had like a kind of a soft pop rock group before us, and we were, an alternative metal band, and so there was that, kind of changing things up. So we did that. But with the venue we played at, there was a kind of ironic and full circle moment for me going into this show, because the bar was it was a bar. This was a bar that was actually located right next to the place where I did my undergrad education for my own, college time. And this particular bar, as I remember from my time in undergrad, by the time we played this show, it was under a different name and I believe different management. But during my time in undergrad, whether it be things that were told to me directly or through the grapevine, this bar had I heard plenty of salacious stories about this particular bar, again, in my time during undergrad. Things that maybe I wish I could have done well without hearing in the first place, but oh well. But us actually playing the show, nothing weird happened, nothing weird or nothing like that happened. So that was great. It was a good first show. First go at, just being in that moment and getting ready to go for things. And then, of course, having that 2-week trip, international trip prior. That was a great way to kick things off with, going around and playing shows in Denver. So thankful for that experience as well. So that's going to do it for this video, everybody. Again, with how crummy things are at the moment, I just wanted to recall on 5 interesting stories from shows I played in the past. And again, I'm leaving this open to where I might share some more fun and crazy stories in the future. Hope you liked this video. Let me know what you thought. If you have any crazy show stories, I'd love to hear those as well. If you've ever seen anything crazy at a show, I will also accept that wherever you're watching this. I know a lot of musicians are doing a lot of live streaming things at the moment. This certainly is giving me more time to put some more thought into videos I've wanted to do. So keep in touch with your favorite musicians as they're doing, trying to put their art out in any which way they can. And I hope once we can all get back into the groove of going to see live shows, whether you're going to see a cover tribute band, an original band, or already big act, I hope you're going to see them in droves, because it's going to be so fun to play the first show once this all blows over. Just whatever that show may be on my end. I'm looking forward to putting all the work in, and I'm looking forward to announcing that show again if things resolve themselves sooner than later, and then we can all get out there and rock out. Please be healthy, please be safe, enjoy what we can do in this time with our options limited, but have a great rest of your day otherwise, and looking forward to the next one.